You're listening to Beyond the Buy with Alissa, Menke, and Angie, Grau.
Welcome to Beyond the Buy. Today we are going to discuss the media strategies behind event promotion.
And an event promotion really can be a lot of things, right?
A lot of different things.
But I think it's really easy for people to think about like fun events.
Yes.
But it is also serious events and things that are maybe a little bit boring.
Yes. So speaking of all the different kind of types of events, why do you feel like it's important for us to discuss those media strategies?
It's really important for you to build a media strategy very specific to an event because an event is very unique, right? It's not just getting out in front of a specific target audience. It's doing that, but communicating everything that they need to be able to raise their hand and in some instances, like make a payment for an event that they may have never heard of before. And once that event happens, if those ads have not shown, like too bad, too late, sorry. And so you don't end up filling up your event. So, you've got this unique time challenge as well as maybe communicating more in an event ad than what you would typically put into that creative messaging for a regular ad.
Yeah, definitely. So what makes this event promotion different from other types of media campaigns?
It's the same in some aspects because we've got this goal. We're trying to get people to attend this event. You still have the same kind of definition of a target audience, but it is really different in that it's very timely and you're jamming a lot of stuff in there. I don't know. There's probably other things that I'm not thinking of that make it different. What do you think?
I think the big things are it kind of has little elements of everything when it comes to an event.
Yeah.
Right? Because you want to make sure you have that awareness, but you are very goal driven.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that they're converting. But like you said, the big difference, I feel like, is that schedule, that time factor. Because like you said, once that event happens.
Yes. And we've seen both sides of things. We've seen where, brands have gotten in and they've started promoting this event like really early.
Mm-hmm.
And, you get this initial surge and then people kind of get a little bit, like brand blind. They've seen the event enough.
Mm-hmm.
They have either decided to engage or they were going to wait, but that they aren't at that point where they're going to take any action.
Yeah.
And so, it just kind of becomes boring and stale. So it sort of plateaus and starts to drop off. Or on the flip side, you did not give yourself enough time to get the word out. And even if you do this really strong push, if you've limited that time frame, you are really kind of hurting the opportunity in terms of really getting out in front of folks, giving them time to look at their schedule, getting them time to purchase tickets. Very rarely does someone see the first ad and they're like, sign me up. Yeah. I want those tickets right now.
Absolutely. So do you think that time management piece is really where organizations kind of get tripped up?
Yeah. And you have to be very intentional about it. You have to have a schedule. You should probably have creative shifts. If you do have the benefit of a longer run on a campaign, which for like a big ticket event, you probably need, if we're doing some kind of a, ticket price is $10 to maybe $45, a 3-week window is a pretty good time frame. Mm-hmm. But when you start talking about a conference where I'm going to have to put down between $1,000 and maybe $3,000 to attend, don't give me a 3-week window because that's something that I need to not only get approval from, the company I'm working for or from myself. That's a lot of money to spend. I need to be able to do the research to make sure it's worth the investment. I need to be setting some money aside to help cover that investment. And so that their window of serving those ads is a lot longer. And there are different stages where you need to be sort of talking to or speaking to different things in that ad creative during that time frame.
So let's go to the beginning, right? So before we even worry so much about the timing of things, like what's the first step when it comes to event promotion?
The first step is like every other campaign. What is our goal?
Yes.
How are we going to be able to measure it? Sometimes you can follow that ticket process all the way through and connect those dots entirely. Other times you can't. Other times the event doesn't have a formal ticket. And so you need to understand we are driving folks to a free event where they just show up. So how are we going to know if the campaign's working?
Yeah.
We need to have that conversation ahead of time so that the client understands these are the things that we're going to look at. But ultimately, we aren't going to know if we move the needle until after the event. And realistically, that information is going to have to come from them. You know, if you plan big events that are outside, like there is a commonly understood, this is how we count when there's hundreds or tens of thousands of people there. Clearly, they're not like 1, 2, 3, 4. But whatever that is, we want to know that they have an idea ahead of time, how they count it, what they expect, so that we know, did it work, did it not work?
Yeah. So always goals. What would you say would be some good KPIs then for event promotion?
Yeah, so obviously purchasing the ticket if you can do that. But again, for those like longer event promotional cycles, it may be, you know, your first step might be driving people to the website so that they can understand the event, look at the speaker list, understand the pricing, in which case, you know, so you're running this, you know, longer campaign. Upfront is really educational. And then we get them in this place where we want to just continue to stay in front of them until they've pulled the trigger. So you really need to be able to define the audience and understand why each of those different audiences want to attend, right? Like if it's for like an entertainment kind of thing, you know, then you get out in front of the people that love that genre of music or like, you know, live performances or whatever. But when you start talking about things that are more educational in nature, sometimes me reaching out to Angie, the employee, might work, but sometimes it's actually better to get out in front of Angie's, you know, boss that knows, hey, Angie needs to sharpen up this skill set, or hey, we've been looking for training opportunities. And so think through all those potential target audiences and what that benefit is. Why would they want to attend? Because that's how you need to set up your messaging.
Yeah. So it just really depends on the type of event that you're hosting, and that there might be phases involved. So your goals might be different within each of those.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Let's flip the tables here a little bit. How should brands think about targeting an audience for their event campaign? I mean, I guess we kind of just touched on a few.
But yeah, like you said, there's so many different types of events, whether it be, you know, I think we tend to think events as major concerts or sporting events, those types of things.
Fun things.
Yeah, things like that. But it could also be the parades that are being hosted, you know, throughout the community, or these bigger community events. But it can also be like on the business side, those business to business conferences, those types of things.
Even like webinars that aren't necessarily any exchange of money,
right?
But it is an opportunity for someone to come in and learn.
Yes. Yeah. So of course, like you had mentioned, goals always so important. Knowing the measurements, knowing your KPIs, but even when it comes to your audience, really determining that, like you had mentioned on the kind of work educational side, training, knowing who that correct individual is. So is it your lower level employee, or are we looking at HR? Are we looking at management?
Yeah.
Those are the type of decision makers. So that's your true audience, because they're going to be the ones actually signing off and allowing for that. Or even in the community, knowing the different types of events that you're hosting and who that would most appeal to. If it is like a pride event that's happening downtown, or if it's just a parade happening for the community, whatever those things are, really kind of identifying that audience and kind of knowing, of course, your standard age, you know, gender, region, those types of things. You know, do they have kids? Do they not have kids? Those kind of things are always helpful. Just having that general persona of who you want to target, but definitely paying attention to the key decision maker.
Let's get into channels. What media channels are good for people to be thinking about when they're trying to put together this plan for promoting their event?
I think the biggest thing with media channels is just knowing one channel is not going to suffice.
Oh, yeah.
It really needs to be.
I mean, it's like one type of person.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And each of these different channels is going to serve a different purpose.
Yeah.
Like you had mentioned earlier with conference as an example. It's education at the forefront. So if you have email leads already, like if you already have warm leads, potentially have their email address, their contact information, you're potentially going to start with email blasts to them. And as they engage with that content, then they might be able to trigger some of the display marketing that's happening. With the traditional side, I always think of like the circus when it comes.
Yeah.
You're going to see them on TV. You're going to hear about it on the radio stations. You're going to see billboards around town because different audiences are going to engage with those different things. I typically know when it's coming because I see a billboard that's next to my house. I'm like, oh, the Shrine Circus is coming to town.
Yeah.
Because I don't listen to a lot of radio or with paid, social. We would love to believe that everybody in our circle is going to see those, but it's hard.
Yeah. I mean, that is, I think that is becoming less and less true every day.
Yes. Yeah. So it's one, of course, knowing your audience, knowing your goals, that can help you to identify where you need to be. If it's something where you need reach and frequency, you might look more to those traditional routes like radio or potentially television. If you want it to be a lot more targeted, you're going to look more for the online, even search potentially, because it might be somebody who's already actively kind of looking for a similar situation. But the big thing to remember is it's going to be a mix.
Let's dig a little bit further into email. Where does email fit in?
So email can kind of fit into a couple of different places depending on what the event is. So talking about conferences, if you already have those leads, like individuals who have attended in the past or who have shown interest in the past, then of course, keeping in front of them and letting them know, like, oh, we have the next conference is open, early bird pricing, those kinds of things are great. Or if it's somebody who just, they're just finding you along the way, or they're engaging on your website with content about that specific event, that's a great way to have them connect with you because it's saying like, we're interested, but we want to know a little bit more. So especially in, like you had mentioned, those more educational types of events that are going to require more time.
I would say more time and effort than the typical event commitment.
Yeah, right. Like, so if I want to buy a ticket, I don't necessarily want to get all the emails from Ticketmaster or AXS or all of the others, right? Like, I just want my ticket. I just want the one thing that I need.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily want all of the other things. That's not always true though, because like I'm on the e-newsletter list for like our local theaters or for local venues so that I know about things that are coming in locally. So you kind of have both sides of it, but I think definitely on those longer cycle types of conferences that more effort, more time, email becomes a really important piece of that.
I like the way that email can kind of open up like a new window each time that I get it, where I learn a little bit more. The first one they're talking about like things that you're going to be able to learn, and they give like the highest level like dates and location. And then the next one a month later is talking about the speaker list has just been unveiled. And then the third one is like, oh, and here our agenda's been finalized. And they really tease it along so that you're like,
it builds that excitement.
In a way, you're almost looking for like, oh, I want to know more.
Yes.
And then for me, like sometimes it drives me to the website, even though I haven't been like directly hit by an email that day, but I'm like, oh, I wonder if that's out yet.
Yes. Yes, definitely. And I know for me too, personally, and probably for a lot of you, having that email that maybe it's the week of or it's leading up and I haven't purchased yet. And I'm like, oh man, like maybe I forgot, or maybe it was a little bit of a discount.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Is
I wasn't going to go, but now.
Yeah.
Or maybe something opens up in my schedule because like we've talked about previously, our kids are very busy, very involved. And so we don't know schedules.
Yeah, it is super hard to commit, especially if I'm paying like $50+ for a ticket. If I have some significant mom guilt, if I'm going out to do something fun and I have a child that is, playing a sport somewhere, it better be a real good reason to pull me away from the field. And so, yeah, I don't want to commit to anything until I know that my schedule's open. And a lot of times that unfortunately comes to almost like week of.
Yes.
Which is an annoying way to live life at the moment, but it is what it is. It's a season.
You do have to be careful with those types of things. I mean, last minute or last week types of emails I think are great. Or even if you truly are running low, right, on seats or tickets, if they truly, because I've noticed they all say going fast. It's like buy now. They're building this urgency, but it means nothing anymore, right? Because we all just become so like immune to it.
Well, I feel like that's, sometimes using some clever marketing, spin to try to get people to rush and buy something. And then you show up and you're like, oh, I thought the tickets were going fast. Why are there all these empty seats?
But that last week of, if you're going to do discounts, be careful, because just like I kind of call it like the Hobby Lobby effect, where right? Like, okay, well, if you say a couple weeks,
you say Hobby Lobby effect, and I immediately know what you're talking about. I'm not buying anything Hobby Lobby full price, because I know that within a matter of 3 or 4 weeks it will go on sale. So I'm going to hold off on buying my tickets, because if I know that the last week it's going to be like buy one get one or 50% off or whatever.
So it doesn't mean you can't discount. You absolutely can, and at times it's going to be beneficial to do that. But if it becomes habitual, then you're kind of training your audience to wait till the last minute. And when you're planning events, you don't want that. You
No.
don't want them to wait until the very last minute.
Yeah. A lot of
can be
nice where you're not getting a lot of sleep because we're not selling tickets.
Yes. Yeah. So email can serve a lot of really beneficial services, and it can really help in a lot of different ways. Along that, it's a nice additional piece to that overall mix.
Well, I really like how email allows you to get out in front of those folks that have already sort of, made this connection. They've expressed interest. They're your warm group.
Absolutely.
Paid social is sort of the next thing here on our list. Paid social is really good because you're able to get in and do some interest and some geographic targeting, but yet you still have that space to have a really great visual and tell a story, get people the information they need, but it allows you to be a little bit more educational in nature, as opposed to like a straight up display ad where it's like, give me the facts, just the facts. And so I think about, the hype that you're able to get, like you can convey a sense of energy in it and get some of that urgency to go through. Mm-hmm. I like that you can change out your creative really fast. So you can tell this story that has, sort of chapters to it, or allows you to build messaging off of each other. Mm-hmm. But the thing to me that I think is really key, and we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, is the way that social is inherently shareable, whether like I intentionally go out and like share this event and tell my my network about it, or I happen to see because Angie really likes, a specific thing and she's going to this event. Yeah. And I look at it, I'm like, oh girl, that event sounds cool. I want to go too.
Yeah.
That sort of like indirect peer like pressure or fear of missing out because I see someone else is going.
Or even technically like a form of word of mouth. Like
It's like a wordless endorsement of this event is going to be cool.
Yes. Yeah. I go to a lot of events that way. I have other people who I know have kids my age who are engaged. I'm like, oh, what are they doing this weekend? Or, oh, what is that?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. So I do love that aspect because I'm not always going to get served the ads. And so when others within my network engage with it, then it's more likely to pop up for me.
Yeah.
And so that's how I found a number of things for the kids.
Yeah. No, I think that's probably one of my favorite uses of social is finding those little Easter eggs of like somebody else liked something. Mm-hmm. Because you don't see as much where people go out and like publicly share like, oh, this is great. Everyone should go. Like that. I think we've moved past that sort of, time in social media where everyone felt like they needed to spread the word.
Yes. And I think because it just feels outdated when people do that or you're like, oh, they must work.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine and fair. But yeah, it's definitely.
You just don't see it as often where it's like a truly organic, hey, I love this. Everyone should come.
Yeah. Yes. Not as often. So that's paid social.
Yeah.
What about search? How does that fit into?
Yeah, so a search strategy can be a little bit tricky. Like if you are running sort of a, tight event time frame, search may not make sense as a place because 3 weeks is not enough to get a search campaign like really operating at full capacity. But if you're a venue that frequently has events coming in, then you can absolutely build a search campaign for, anytime someone's looking for your event venue, looking for your brand, looking for entertainment options in the area. So it becomes more of an ongoing, like, generic search campaign. But then you sprinkle in these event-specific things as they're, timely, and then you can find it really well. And it's great because those people that are doing that search are looking for, like, they're very interested. They want to find this event. And so that sales cycle is automatically shortened, right? Like you have won a place on their list of consideration, and you have then potentially cut out them like finding other options because you were, right up there with that search campaign.
Nice. Yeah, I do like that. And I like that idea of having the awareness piece and then sprinkling in.
Yeah. Yeah, because sometimes people know very specifically what show they want to go to. Other times people want to just support a venue, or other times people just want to go out and have fun.
Yeah.
And you want to make sure that you are there regardless of what that sort of motivation is on their part.
Yeah. And I know for me too, and you too, I'm sure, we may be visiting an area because of a dance competition or a baseball tournament, and we have hours to kill in between, or maybe we're staying overnight and it's like, okay, well, what can we do anything? What do we do while we're here? And being able to pull that stuff up, or even I might be killing time in a different area of town. Like we're in North Topeka and we've got 2 events, but they're really spread out. I'm like, what? Like, is there anything going on?
Yeah.
And we've found things that way to participate in, or activities or events that I didn't otherwise know.
And that's one of the reasons why, like, we advise a lot of our tourism clients. You need to be running these generic campaigns about things to do where we're just sending people to the local events calendar, because that is one of those like low-hanging fruit opportunities of, folks are looking for things to do, but they need to know like right now. And that's going to be a search, whether that is like a Google search or whether that is like ask my favorite AI, bot to make some suggestions. They are still looking at all of those tools, trying to figure out what's happening tonight.
Yes. All right. So what role does display and retargeting play?
Display and retargeting are nice because they help you build that frequency. Display in and of itself, I kind of mentioned it earlier. It is sort of like just the facts, nothing but the facts. Hopefully you're able to get some kind of intriguing visual to go with it, but you cannot tell a story in display. So it is just about purely getting in front of folks at a higher level. And then retargeting comes into play because most of the time people don't see that ad or that event the very first time and immediately like buy tickets. And so retargeting allows us to make sure that anybody that's come to the event website to like look to gather more information, we've put them in the queue now to hit them, as a follow-up with more ads that help build out that story and maybe get them one step closer to buying the ticket. And if you do retargeting really well and you have these abilities on the back of your website, we can then take the folks that did buy the ticket out of that pool so they're not continuing to see like buy tickets. But display and retargeting in and of themselves are not going to be very effective. They have got to be like pieces of this greater campaign. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about traditional and local media. Like, what are the options? What have you found that's effective from radio, out of home, direct mail?
All the things.
Yeah.
So I know we mentioned earlier, I talked a little bit about the circus and, the billboards that you see, or you're going to hear about on the radio. They're probably going to talk about it on the news.
One of the things that I think is really helpful about all of that is that it pulls in these audiences that we aren't able to ever hit online, right? Like, my kids are going to see the billboard for the circus. My kids are going to see or hear the TV or the radio commercials.
Yes.
And that's sort of that, like, that other audience of like, this might not be the direct ticket buyer, but this is someone that is going to have that influence over the ticket buyer.
Being like decision maker.
Yeah.
The money.
Yeah.
That's us. So always especially for those events like that are a little bit longer. Like it might be the whole weekend, it might be a couple of weekends.
Yeah.
They say like where it's at, the days, and so they just kind of know. Or
Yeah.
when they have like the spirit mind fairs and things like that, that truly I would never know about except for those instances.
I was going to say, I don't know what kind of campaign they put to promote those events, but it feels like it is potentially like billboard, maybe radio. I don't know. I don't listen to a lot of radio, but maybe some radio. And that's about all.
I would assume, hope, that they're collecting like lead information from those individuals and then
doing some kind of like email,
print, something like that. But things like that are always nice to have. Billboards can be pricey, so you've got to make sure that it makes good sense, good financial sense. But they're a great way of building that awareness, making sure that you're getting in front of those different audiences. I mentioned earlier, radio is great for like quick reach and frequency, getting out in front of them. And a lot of times there can potentially be some partnership opportunities in there too, which is always great. Like if you are able to do a giveaway with tickets. So you can do some trade with the stations. They can give away tickets. Again, they're talking about your event more frequently. So it's not just the ads that you've purchased or spots, but it's also those, announcers and personalities talking about the event as well, which is so great. TV wouldn't make sense. Typically probably going to be around the news was recommend because you're going to have a stronger audience. Again, all depends on your audience, who you're targeting, who you want to get out in front of. But even like our local theater, the relationships that they have with news networks, getting out that way, but also direct mail. So I know like TPAC always sends out a calendar of maybe, I can't remember if it's quarterly or biannually events. So then you kind of know at least the things that are scheduled as of that time. So some of those bigger events that they have upcoming, direct mail can be great for that. Kind of on the flip side, we haven't talked about nonprofits really. But as a nonprofit event, you likely have a list of donors. You have individuals who have participated or given or, what have you in the past. And so direct mail is a great way to stay in front of them with reminders, ticket information, letting them know that this event is happening again. So we tend to kind of go the way of email, but as we've discussed in previous episodes, email, there's a lot happening in email. There's a lot of white noise. So
there is
making sure, even if it's just a postcard or even a letter itself, that it's personalized and addressed to them to let them know that event's coming up. Great ways to stay.
The other thing that's nice about nonprofit direct mail stuff is it's like, hey, come to this fundraising event or just send in a donation.
It is.
I mean, it really works. As you see, I've really seen it work, and I've participated both directions where I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to make it to this thing, but here's my check because I feel really guilty about this.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Get the ways. And some kind of more non-traditional, traditional things that you might think of is maybe a billboard is outside of your budget. We frequently, back when I had Paper June, my children's bookstore, we have lots of local entities that will come and ask us to hang up flyers.
Oh yeah,
so,
the old school flyer for
Ballet
sure.
West was great about bringing in posters and things promoting their upcoming ballet, and it made sense for like our audience of families to be able to put those up for them. So even door to door, those types of billboard, coffee shops, places where your audience might be, being able to do some sort of signage in those places is a great way to also
like the little like yard signs, sort of like used to be garage sale or like house for sale, but
all kinds of things.
Sky's the limit.
Yeah, there's all kinds of great things you can do to get in front of them. The nice thing about traditional these days is kind of like a break from the noise of online. Think about how you can get in front of them physically through some of those traditional, whether it be non-traditional, traditional, or some of billboard, TV, radio, direct mail.
So we've talked about there being sort of a unique like timing aspect to event promotion. Let's dig a little bit further into that. Like what type of phases are there in event promotion, and what should we be thinking about during those phases?
So there are going to be, it just depends, right? It depends on the type of event that you're having. In some cases, it's just we're trying to sell tickets, we're trying to fill seats. So it's not as involved, but it's not as simple as we're just going to start promoting it, because you might, depending on your budget, right? You don't want to run out of budget
Yeah.
and not talk about it in those weeks leading up, but you also don't want to wait too long. So it's this kind of finesse. So hopefully, you have done some tracking and you're paying attention to when you see those ticket sales, but you want to allow enough time. Some of them are hard hitting. You can promote them, like we've mentioned, a few weeks leading in, but then you're going to have some events that you just need more time,
Yes.
to educate and convince and bring them up, persuade them to come on board. But even with some of those ticket sales too, you don't want to wait too long, right?
Yeah.
So let's say, we'll just go with that circus example that I've been giving. If you wait until mid-January to start promoting the circus, that's, the middle of February, it's going to be too long. Typically, you'll start to see those promotions happening a couple months in advance, especially if you have a billboard. Because you got to get that board up and running for a while. So you're going to want to look at maybe like 6 weeks or 8 weeks to make sure that you have enough time to build that awareness. Because if everything is jam-packed into the last few weeks, you're going to get people, but you're not going to get the breadth of people that you would have achieved had you added on, another handful of weeks to that schedule.
So we've got that early awareness phase. We've got a consideration phase where we're adding details and sort of, building it out. That urgency phase where you get down and you're like, hey, 2 weeks left to buy tickets, or prices increase in a week.
Yes, those early.
Your final reminder, and those all are going to play out.
Yes.
On different channels.
Yep. Different channels and different levels depending on kind of what type of event it is. Different if you're just selling tickets versus if you're getting registration for a longer event, and even different if the event is in person as opposed to online.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about creative. What makes event promotion creative effective? And what are some pretty common mistakes that we see made?
I think a common mistake would be getting too caught up in the creative itself, like really wanting it to be like this super cool ad or placement, and because you can do that and it's going to be great. But as you mentioned earlier, event promotion is really about being concise, succinct, and getting that really important information right away. I know we always want the creative to be like really cool, but sometimes we've got to find that balance. And in these cases, it's going to be more important to really hit that information.
Yeah.
What's happening, when it's happening, where it's happening, as opposed to just, taking up the billboard with these really cool elephants and having like tiny, information.
Yeah. The other thing that I would say is don't different amounts of messaging come out perfectly in different venues, right? So that billboard is super concise, but your billboard should be the concise version of a little bit longer format of what you're seeing on social. And even that's concise compared to what you're seeing in the email, right? Like, don't make the mistake of making every single communication so laser focused that you've lost the opportunity to provide the details and the context and the things that make maybe not the number one intended audience interested. Because, that one audience, they are going to be interested, but you'll find that there are a lot of sort of folks on the periphery that when they know more about it are suddenly like, oh yeah, no, I want to be that audience, or my goal is to become that audience. And so they're going to be interested and they're going to want to go.
And I know you kind of alluded to this earlier. You mentioned having, if it's a long running campaign, having different creative.
Yes.
Yeah. Because there's an event that my husband has tickets for next week, and I've seen the exact same image since I started promoting it in the fall, which is a really cool image, but it's the exact same one. So for some people, right? It's lost, right? Because it
Yeah,
becomes
they've seen it so many times that they
too
don't
many times.
they don't really pay attention to it anymore.
So
For
make
sure.
sure you have some kind of different variations of that creative itself.
Yeah. What are other things that you think are mistakes that you see brands frequently make when they're promoting their events?
I think the big thing is waiting too long.
Yeah, waiting too long, I think, is super common.
Waiting-
Or like starting stupid early, where it's like, hey, I appreciate that you want to make sure that you all do this right, but also
Mhm.
3 months out for this particular type of event doesn't make sense.
And I think overlooking some of the local opportunities as far as things like the Red Couch. Getting
Yeah.
out with your local television networks on some of those
Sure.
shows where you can be interviewed and discuss that. Also, a lot of businesses that around local, smaller businesses don't always remember to go post on local calendars.
Yes.
And missing out on local calendars is huge. So whether that be, submitting to media outlets, definitely here locally with
Yeah.
the Pika 365 calendar, being out on there.
That's a really good resource for local businesses for sure.
Yeah. And that is where technology decided that we were done. Thanks for watching. Join us next time for another episode of Beyond the Buy.